All right. I want to get this out of the way because it's just weird. Last night we watched a movie, uh, a 30-minute movie. How about that? It's a 30-minute movie. It's called A Human Voice, I believe. Something Human Voice. The Human. I think maybe The Human Voice. Trish was very adamant, like, I don't want to tell you. I like just watch. Like, don't look at the description or anything like that. And I think that is a good way to approach it. That being said, I don't know what I could say that would be a spoiler or make any sense. So I don't know if it matters entirely. You got a look on your face. Have you seen this thing?
No.
Okay. It's on HBO Max if anybody wants to watch it. And yeah, it's 30 minutes long. It has Tilda Swinton in it, and that's just it, Tilda Swinton. It is apparently an adaptation of a Jean Cocteau play, I think. And it's I love Tilda Swinton. She does a great job in this. She does one of those things that I love. There are a lot of even like bad movies and things that I love them because people act really hard in them. I think I've mentioned this before. Krull is one of those. Yeah. The David Lynch Dune is another one for me where people act very hard, and I find that wonderful. She acts very hard in this movie, but it's also Tilda Swinton, so she acts very well and very hard. The movie is very visually striking. And possibly from a shot composition perspective, it's I don't really know that kind of thing, but it may be very impressive from that level. I don't know or care what happened. Like, it's not it's I spent half the movie trying to think of a good word. I need to come up with a proper critical term rather than just say things have their head up their own ass, because that's usually what I say. And it seems rude, and I'm sure there's a proper critical term. Pretentious might start to get there. But yeah, I spent half the movie thinking of that by no coincidence. And then I spent the other half going, I guess it works like as a poetry reading, because like they're not speaking in poetry, they're speaking in sentences, and I understand the sentences, but I mean, I could tell you the basics of the plot, but I have a lot of questions that I don't care about the answers. Like, it's basically a story about a woman who's just had a breakup, but it's like a very specific type of relationship that I didn't relate to at all, but that also left out huge swaths of detail, so I don't really know if I would relate to it. And he left. I never liked that guy. So, for the rest of you, if I mean, here's the thing: it's almost worth the price of admission because it is still 30 minutes of watching Tilda Swinton act, which is fun. If this movie was longer, not so much, but 30 minutes, I'm not sorry I saw it. She does a great job. The costume is really cool. The set pieces are very intriguing looking and stuff. She does marvelous work. I just don't know or care what was happening. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way because it's weird. He's coming back here, so it could happen any second. You never know. Those of you who are listening just to the audio, this has got to be weird, but yeah, William left. I assume he had to poop.
I didn't leave. I got kicked off somehow.
I
I
was
don't know what
talking
the
a
deal
lot
was.
and you didn't move and then you disappeared. So I have no idea at what point you stopped being able to hear me. But I just kept telling the people. So they all heard about it. But
I mean, I see it
I'm
for
not
sure.
saying don't watch it because it's only 30 minutes and it's Tilda Swinton in interesting outfits, in interesting set pieces, acting her chops off. And that's kind of worth it by itself, but like that's the only reason. Like it uh, yeah, I don't know or care what was going on is what it comes down to. And that's very and it feels very full of itself. But yeah, I mean it's a visual spectacle. So it could be worth it, but yeah, very strange. The Human Voice on HBO Max. I'm gonna need you to start like doing this while we podcast because you hold very still that sometimes it's very hard to tell if you've frozen up. See, like just now, I hear you laughing, but the picture has not changed. Yeah. Uh, Somebody just recently was like, "What the hell is wrong?" Because we've been really bad lately on internet. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. The good news is because it's all my end recording, so I look good. Um, they tend to assume it's your internet that's the problem, and I'm happy about that. I think we have a bit of a lag
Maybe it
this
is.
time. I think we've got some lag. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Magical Talking Hat podcast. The only podcast that doesn't see. I want to say the only podcast that does because I feel like everybody doesn't, but the truth is nobody does. So the only podcast that doesn't understand why there's a Bud Light brand hard seltzer that is currently marketing the fact that it's organic. I mean, who is like, I want a hard seltzer. What, from Bud Light? Yeah, that's fine. But make sure no pesticides were involved in the making of this Bud Light hard seltzer. I'm Tony.
And I'm William, and this is episode 530.
And that tells you how big our lag is. Fun fact, for reasons neither of us has fully comprehended, at the end, when we stop recording, instantly, we end up with an enormous lag every time. As soon as we're done recording, but we're still in the call, there's this huge lag. We do not know why, but it is to the point that in order to say goodbye, I just start doing this and I keep doing it until William does it back because that's how he knows that I have signaled that I'm leaving and I don't want to just suddenly disappear and kill the call and he doesn't know what happened. So that's fun. I sometimes think this is the universe telling us we should really record in person again. But it is so much of a bigger pain, especially for you. So I don't know. While he's catching up in time, I'll explain how the show we have a hat. It has its own email address, the magical talking hat at gmail.com. People, probably those ones listening right now, maybe other people, maybe not ones listening right now. I mean, there's all sorts. Write in to that email address, the magical talking hat at gmail.com, with little notes, comments, topics, questions, things like that. The hat magically transmogrifies those emails into little note cards with the information written on them that manifest physically within the hat itself. We, its temporarily distorted servants, draw the note cards out of the hat at random, read them on the air, talk about them till we're bored, do that for about an hour, and that's the whole show except the parts that aren't, which is most of it. And William's going to agree to all that as soon as he catches up in time. Although his picture's been frozen for a while. So he might be dead again. There we go. How's your school days been?
It's kind of a mixed bag.
Oh, yeah?
But I mean, the downside has really mostly just been, there's a lot to get used to. If it wasn't online, it would be different. If I was just taking, regular graduate school classes in a similar way that I used to take undergraduate classes, I think it would just feel the same. Like, 30 years hasn't passed or whatever, and I'm just going back to school, big deal. But this online thing is different, and it's going to take some getting used to. But I mean, outside of that part, there's been quite a bit of reading already, and it's like, this is fine. I mean, it's interesting subject matter. Human behavioral science subject matter always interests me. I am interacting with fellow students a little bit, and they're all nice, interesting people. So, I mean, there's a lot of good things about it, but the bolts are kind of a slog right now. Maybe, and I'm sure that as time goes by, that will become less of an issue. But right now, it's kind of exhausting. Just the minutia of it, but I think it'll be okay. I'm a little worried about how long it's going to take, because I'm just taking one class because that's all that was available for this quarter because of how I came into it and everything. But next quarter I can pick, 1, 2, 3 classes, however many I want to take, depending on how fast things progress. But I don't know what 2 classes or 3 classes will be like. So far, a 1 week of one class has been pretty stressful. But as I say, I'm just getting started, so maybe that's all. Maybe that's all there is to it. And after the first couple of weeks, it'll be like, oh yeah, I can handle 1 or even 2 more classes like this. And if I can do 3 classes a quarter, then I can get the master's done in what is a traditional thinking is 2 years. And I'd like to do that, but we'll see. But yeah, so I think mostly good, a little bit stressful, but I mean, just in the predictable ways. I'm sure it'll be fine. What else has your week had besides watching a 30-minute thing?
Are the other kids picking on you?
Not yet. I kind of anticipate they will, though. No, actually, everyone, there was like an introductory thing you had to do, and there were certain questions they wanted you to answer, and it was kind of hard not to give away, that
you're old.
I'm coming to this as an old. Plenty of people who are close to my age who are just getting started. I was kind of surprised by that, but there's several younger people too, and they actually have gone out of their way to be very, positive and supportive. Like, oh, wow, that's really cool. You're an old person and you're doing this.
I
But
really want
I mean,
that to have
and
been their
it's
exact
nice, I
wording.
guess. Well, but yeah, there's a few of us. I think I am the oldest one, but I mean, like the next oldest person, I think is like 48 or 49. I mean, really close. So
Do you have anyone to sit with at lunch?
yes, my wife
Good.
every day so far.
That's the important thing. Um, my week has been busy and it continuing to be busy. Yesterday I spent a whole bunch of my day at Shakespeare's. I met up with a friend who listens to the podcast, and we had lunch at Shakespeare's. And then later that night, because it was date night, Trish and I have been experimenting with going out now that we have the vaccines and all that, going out to places with outdoor seating. And so I took us back to Shakespeare's for dinner that night. So that was fun to be there. When I had lunch with my friend, so as you know, I don't drink much, especially weirdly, my alcohol consumption has gone down during quarantine. I don't fully understand it, but I just haven't been interested. And I'm pretty much a lightweight to begin with. So, I can have a beer with a meal and that's fine. If I have two, I get a pretty good buzz. If I have three, I'm drunk pretty much. I may not be drunk for long, but I'm drunk. I had four with my lunch. So luckily I had walked there because Shakespeare's is only a few blocks away. But the sun was shining. It was beautiful weather. I got to catch up with my friend. It was a great time. And four beers really helped that. But that kind of threw a lot of things out of whack yesterday. And then today, well, last night I couldn't sleep at all, but I had to get up today because I had to go to the doctor. And for my roughly quarterly visit there. Pleased to say my numbers are great. My A1C is still trending down. Ideally we want it 6 or lower, and it's 7.6, but in December it was 7.8, and the time before that it was in the 9s. So this is a good direction. My blood pressure is quite a bit lower, which kind of makes sense because my life is a lot less stressful now. So that's been really nice. My weight is within, margin of error. I think I gained 2 pounds, but that's in 5 months, and what the heck. So, yeah. So numbers were good. It's funny though. So I had an appointment with my doctor, which is difficult to do nowadays because he's been there forever. He's very high up on things. He's very popular. So sometimes they're like, what if you just got an appointment with one of the residents when he's working, and they'll talk to him and come see you? And I'm like, no, I'll wait. I'll see him. So I see him, except I didn't see him. First, they bring in a med student, and she does all of the things. And then she talks to him, and then he comes in with the med student, and we sort of double check. But nobody really warned me about this. And more importantly, nobody really warned them about this. And this is bad because I am a wonderful but complicated patient in that I'm still me, which means if I'm not having fun, what is the point? So she comes in and introduces herself and says, I'm a med student, which I could tell because it said student on the tag or whatever. And I was like, all right. And I said, what are you doing here? And then I immediately was like, you're here to tell me I have cancer. And I think she rebooted. Because like I said that, and her eyes just got really big and she held really still, and she's like, no, And then she just kind of stayed that way for a minute and then was like, all right, anyway, so you're here today because, and eventually, like, she got it as time went on when I made jokes. And at that one immediately, I was like, oh, that was a bad choice. But when my doctor came in later, I was like, you either have to warn her or warn me, because that was not fair to her. And I was like, I'm very sorry about that. And I told her later, because this was early in the morning, and I said later, I was like, just so you know, I am both the nicest and the most complicated patient you're going to experience today. So you're welcome, and I'm sorry. And then the doctor looked, he's like, yeah, it's a very insightful observation there. I was like, see? But yeah, so that all went good. But then tomorrow I gotta take it in the car to get the oil changed. And then tomorrow night we're seeing friends that we haven't seen since before they had a baby. And now they have a baby. And we're kind of excited about that because we kind of like babies, especially Trish. And then Sunday, the gaming group is getting together. Well, most of them, one of them still isn't right, but the group that's been playing lately is getting together on Sunday. And I ordered a cake because I never got a birthday cake this year. And so I'm getting a cake. And I'm like, a whole bunch of birthdays got missed, and a whole bunch, and this includes my friend who came out as trans woman, and we never got to have a coming out party. So I just bought a cake and had him write on it, happy everything. It's just a cake for all of the things. So I'm excited for cake. So yeah, it's a busy week. Has anybody, I'm talking to listeners because William doesn't do food. Has anybody checked out the website CookPad? It's a good website that I recently learned about. It's a site similar to like allrecipes.com. But All Recipes is bigger, and All Recipes is also very big in the US, and cookpad.com is bigger in other countries more. But it also means that in the US, it apparently is fairly popular with immigrants. And so I've been checking it out and discovering a lot of recipe types of things that aren't dishes I knew or dishes I would think about. And it's the standard sort of like, here's a fancy dish you might have had before. Here's the simple way you can cook it in your kitchen on a weeknight, you know. So I made a great order of dan dan noodles the other night that like involved ground beef and like boxed linguine and stuff. So it's not like dan dan noodles if you go to like a Chinese restaurant, but it's really good, and I'm very excited about these. So I've been finding some cool stuff. So that's pretty neat. So yeah, people should check that out. Cookpad.com. I will tell you, if you visit it a few times, they suddenly get mad. I went there a few times and I found this recipe. I even bookmarked this recipe, and then I went back again, and they were like, to unlock this recipe, create an account. And I was like, unlock? I've been to this recipe a bunch, but now suddenly this is the thing. But I mean, creating an account was free. I just had to, come up with a username and whatever. So that's fine. But yeah, just be prepared for that. It's weird. Um, did you watch anything this week?
Oh, I mean, not really. Because a lot of this week I had to like, you know, yesterday was kind of a disaster for me in terms of like schoolwork stuff because
Because of four
something
beers.
that should have taken maybe an hour, should have taken maybe an hour, ended up taking several because of various um, procedural things I had to figure out how to do or remember how to do or whatever. So, and some of the stuff sometimes I'm going sort of into the night to make sure that I'm not missing anything. That's a big thing is the interface this for the school I'm attending is pretty busy and kind of messy. There's no simple place where you can go and say, well, these are the things that you need to be doing. It's all buried in a bunch of other information and links, and
Oh man, you
I
are
don't
the
think they
old man.
realize how.
College
realize
websites in my day had very straightforward drill down menus, and now you got this over here. I had to make a TikTok account just to figure out what my homework was. Oh my god.
That's pretty much it. You got it. Nailed it. So yeah, I didn't really do very much in the evenings besides make sure I wasn't doing things wrong on this thing. But like I said, with time, I'm sure I'll get the hang of it.
Mm-hmm. I got a lot writing on this, so I hope you are successful. Because right now, this sounds exactly how I thought it would be like if I went back to school, and it was what I was afraid of. So if it doesn't get better, what I'm learning from this is nope, I should never do that.
Well, I mean, yeah, this is exactly what I expected too. And maybe one of the biggest reasons I was never going to like do an online thing. But, you know, I also knew then, just like I think I know now, a lot of it is going to, it has to get better because you're just going to get used to how it works. So, that's just really has to.
For me, it's less about the online aspect of it and just the doing school things again. Like I don't remember forced learning to be that enjoyable.
Well, right, and then of course you're paying for it. It's like I'm paying to have this person basically boss me around and read things I might not read otherwise. Interested, so it doesn't really feel, that part of it doesn't feel like that. It feels, and I can see that sustaining itself for a long time. In terms of my interest and my engagement,
completely bouncing around your connection.
Well, I don't know what to do about that.
I don't either. I move. Can you like steal your neighbor's internet?
Move
to a place with better internet. I don't know.
No, can't do that.
We caught it. It just sounded real weird. You were like, paying someone to pause. Yeah. So I think we got the gist out of it, but it was weird. And I'm just saying this in case people are listening and they didn't get it and they're like, why is Tony not saying anything? Because anytime anything weird happens with you, I have to point it out because that's just the kind of friend I am. So I didn't want them to be worried.
Okay.
Also, what I learned this week, our listeners either could not give less of a shit about billionaires or are actively on the side of billionaires. Because nobody had anything to say this week at all, except my brother in a text who said billionaires hate your podcast, which I think he just got from what I posted on Facebook. I'm not even sure he listened to the episode. So let's mark that as a topic not to go back to, because all 4 of our remaining listeners apparently did not give a shit about that.
I think maybe it's probably more accurate to say I know I can't really speak for our listeners at all, but if I was to
But it's
guess,
fun to watch you try.
maybe I shouldn't guess.
No,
Maybe I
it's
shouldn't
really
guess. Never
fun to
mind.
watch you try.
No, I shouldn't even have ventured that direction. Never mind.
Aww.
Not gonna do it.
Come on, you were all set up to face plant. We
I
don't even
know.
get to see it. Oh,
I'm not gonna do it. Shut up. Shut up. I'm not gonna do it.
I think
Nope.
our
Nope.
listeners
Come
try
on.
and compare everything we talk about
Roll
to
on.
high capacity hog farming. And I think maybe the concept of billionaires doesn't translate well to high capacity hog farming.
All right, move along.
Joke's on you. Most billionaires are high capacity hog farmers. Fight me. So we watched we're doing a lot of reading. I'm reading a lot to Trish right now. I'm also doing a lot of reading. I think I talked before about the Wayfarers series. The author is named Becky Chambers, and she's really good. I really like her. It's sci-fi, it's space sci-fi, incredible world building in a way that not only is it a very interesting world, but she manages to fit it in seamlessly. There's not a lot of like, here's a exposition dump of how the world works. No, it fits in naturally to the story. But she just writes good, interesting, compelling stuff that doesn't make me want to kill myself. Like, her stories aren't about like the terrible choices we have to make in order to survive, which are fucking everywhere right now. And like, but I'm not even sure that's it's subject matter as much as writing stuff. Because I was thinking about it, I was like, nobody gets raped. That's nice. And I'm like, nobody gets tortured. And then I'm like, there is in one of the books I have read, somebody does get sort of abruptly and roughly imprisoned in a place that like sort of doesn't care about their well-being. And I'm like, and that's rough. But also we spend a couple like we address that happens. We don't spend like a whole chapter on the torment of their imprisonment. And so it may be some of that, not even that like these issues aren't addressed, but that we don't languish in them. But I mean, there's conflict and there's definitely bad things that happen and stuff like that. But I come away from it feeling more pleasant and more positive and more invested in a happy way than almost every other piece of media I come across now. Movies, TV, books, they all just are like, oh, it's so rough. It's so depressing. And I'm like, this is not, but it's still really good and really interesting and really involved. And I just like that a lot. And there's a lot of, and some of it's obvious and some of it's more oblique. There's a lot of social commentary in the form of let's make it about aliens or let's make it about artificial intelligences and things like that. And I like what she has to say in those commentaries. So as we all know, I think my favorite author right now is N.K. Jemisin. And I never ever, I mean, I would of course never say that I will ever be as good as her. I also would say I don't think I would ever write the way she writes and the things she writes. That's not, when I think of me at my best as a writer, that's not the style. Becky Chambers is very much who I feel like I could be. Again, not necessarily in quality, but like the style, like Becky Chambers writes the way I want to write when I grow up. Which is good because so far I've just been trying to explain it as Jim Butcher without a whole bunch of stuff that Jim Butcher has. And that's not helpful to say, but I'm like, no, Becky's pretty dead on there. I'm like, so I highly, highly recommend. And the first book in the series is called a Long Journey to a Small Angry Planet, I believe. The titles are not useful or trip off the tongue well. But they are all sort of episodic and so you don't have to get caught up in the series. Like the first book has people and things happen, and then the second book involves two side characters that just showed up for a little while in the first book in a different place unrelated to the first book stuff, and different things happen. So they work as separate sort of standalone pieces better, and I think there's more of them already out. She's definitely written more stuff, so I'm gonna check that out. I also want to touch really briefly. We watched a documentary that I highly recommend. Across the board, it's just a good documentary. It is on HBO Max also. It is called Suited. Are we familiar with this? Hello?
I said, no, I'm not familiar with it.
Oh, I didn't hear that at all. It
Oh, sorry.
is it is a documentary about a tailoring company called Bindle and Keep. And it is a suit making tailors that the bulk of their clientele at this point is LGBT, including a lot of trans men who, can't find suits that make them look the way they want to look because, their biological forms didn't manage it. But they have lots of people, because we go through a lot of different clientele, and there's some people who are sort of genderqueer who find good things there, and actually there's a trans woman who shows up and wants a suit, and sort of the opposite thing, they're trying to make her look more feminine with the way you cut it, and it's just really cool. I will say this: there's nothing to the doc. It's a happy doc. It's a feel good documentary. Like there's no major internal conflict built into it, or Trish was like, I thought we'd get more into what they do, like the nature of the making of them or whatever, and it's much more why they do it. So it's just a bunch of like different clients and why they're coming to them, and then we make a thing for them, and then we see how they like that thing, and it's all very sweet, it's very cool, and I mean, it's interesting, but it's not, you're not learning a lot, but it is good, and you will enjoy it if you watch it. So I recommend it to everyone in that vein. And it's not, for being that, I didn't get like bored or feel like it was too long or anything. I was into it, so that was cool.
Good.
Yeah, Suited on HBO Max. See, I can't ever fake being frozen because that fan's always going in the back.
Nope, doesn't work.
I wonder if sometimes the lag is such that when I see a fan blade come to the forefront, you're seeing the same one, but on a previous rotation. Like, I wonder if the fans ever sync up. All right. See that?
I'd have to.
There's, all right. The tallest blade goes by now. 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 Oh,
Okay,
this is good YouTube, and even more good podcast. Like, imagine people just listening to this.
Should I take my camera and point it at my computer so you can see yourself?
Oh, yeah. If you can. Oh no, then I get a headache.
I could do that.
No, I have recently. So some people talk to me about the podcast without going on the blog or sending in questions about it, which again, we need the publicity, people. Don't talk to me. Also, don't ever make direct contact with me. I go through my assistants. But go to the blog, themagicaltalkinghat.com, and make your comments there, or write in themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. But anyway, people do this. And somebody recently has complained about you because, and I love it. I love when people complain about you about stuff that I've already complained about you, because it validates me. Your camera should be where your monitor is, because it always looks like you're bored and doing something else. Like right now, you've got your phone just out of shot. I know you do. You're scrolling through Instagram. I know you. That's how that works.
Yep. That's what's
So,
happening.
be best. I feel like now that they're gone, I'm really gonna start making use of that phrase. Like indiscriminately.
Okay.
Indiscriminately, kind of like thanks, Obama. Just wherever I feel like, but be best. Oh, you haven't watched The Bad Batch, have you?
No.
I'm surprised. I thought you'd be all on that
What?
because you loved Star Wars
I mean,
and you loved Clone Wars, I think.
They were introduced. Yeah, they were introduced in a newer Clone Wars episode, and we weren't that impressed with them in those episodes. I mean, which doesn't mean their own show wouldn't be good, but we just haven't. And we might get around to watching it, but we haven't felt like a desperate need to go,
Yeah.
watch it. Well, have you watched it?
Oh no, but I have friends who I've actually I haven't talked to them recently, so I haven't seen what they no, but the internet talks about it, so. And they were very excited that it was coming and things like that. We're going through Shadow and Bone very slowly because we sort of have to be in the right mood. And I got to say, the third episode did not please me. It's really pushing on all of the things about it that I might hate, that I talked about. Like there's a lot of things on paper that I might not like. It's really working on those. I don't want to see people at school anymore. And I don't care if it's Riverdale or the Wizarding World or the Little Palace. I am tired of cliques amongst all the magical people and not being friends because somebody's got more power or was muggle born, or I don't like. I purposely got older to get away from that shit. Like if it wasn't for that, I would have stayed probably 18. But I purposely let myself age, let my body deteriorate to get away from that stupid bullshit. And also, was my schooling full of bullying and cliques? Yes. Did it ever remotely look like the versions that they do in these stories? No. It absolutely did not. I'm sick of it. Stop it. All of you. Also, we have the magic users and we turn that into fantasy racism, which I hate. But also we have a group that like a whole type of people that hate them and think they're evil and so far just like kill them. But now suddenly we're enslaving them to take them back for trial and then killing them. And even though there are men and women who have the magic powers, for some reason, when we enslave them and put them on a boat and chain them up, it's only women. And I'm super not happy about that. Like, I'm very uncomfortable with that. I don't know why we did that, and I don't like it. And it looks like it's gonna be an entire plot thread. I'm not happy about that. I'm absolutely getting why Jazz was into a prequel series involving Jesper and Kit and all of that, because they're fun and interesting and all of that. But the rest of this is fucking and I don't the main romantic relationship doesn't work for me in a lot of ways, and we'll see. I'm still in. It's a fascinating world, but it's not. I'm trending down, not up. But I'm sure I'll finish the season. We'll see. We should draw a thing. You think?
Yep.
I can't, because below the line here, I'm looking at Instagram on my phone. So, just kidding. This is from Azure Talon. That's not how he signed it, but it's from him. See, this is the one reason I get tempted to listen. He has a podcast called Tuning Japanese that I believe is about anime. And there's a lot of reasons I don't listen to it. One, I don't listen to podcasts. Two, I can't stand Azure Talon. Three, I'm not that into anime. Four, it's a play on the phrase turning Japanese, which is a euphemism for masturbating. So no. But sometimes, and five, I don't think it's very consistent in its updates. How's that for a plug? But the one reason I think about listening is because Azure Talon has the one feature that all podcast hosts have to have. And that is just unearned confidence in his ability to say whatever the hell he wants and expect that people are going to find it entertaining. And I mean, that's the only thing we have going. So, funny side note. So you remember I have a daughter who's a waitress.
Sure.
Okay. Do you actually?
I mean, I'm yes-anding, I guess.
No. This is the
No,
thing.
I don't know anything about that.
Yes. We've talked about this on the podcast before. There's a waitress. She used to work at the what's the downtown diner? They had a second location.
Hamburg?
Yes, Hamburg. They had a Hamburg out here, and she worked there, and we got to know her. And one of the other guys, when she wasn't there, was like, "Are you her parents?" And so then she came back, and we joked about that, and it became a whole thing. Remember, we've talked about this. We took Trisha's sister there one time, and we're like, "This is your aunt." Yeah, this is the whole thing. And she worked at Shakespeare's. She worked at Shakespeare for a few years, and this is still like a thing. And so on yesterday, we go there, me and my friend who listens to the podcast, and she comes out to see me because she hasn't seen me in like a year. And so she comes over and I'm like introducing her. I'm like, this is my daughter. And I start to say, like, because she used to, and my friend just nods. And I'm like, oh yeah, you know about this because you heard about it on the podcast. And she's like, yeah. And then my daughter is like, I'm on a podcast. I'm like, yeah, I've been doing a podcast for 10 years. And we talk about this whole we're your parents thing. And she's like, I don't know how I feel about that. And then later that night, we came back and I knew she was working that night, but she wasn't serving. And so when we did the drink order, we were outside and I was like, if you see her and she has a minute, tell her her father brought her mom back to see her tonight. And she said, okay. And then later she came out and I'm like, do your coworkers actually think we're your parents now? And she's like, yeah, kind of. So yeah, we caught up with her. So that was fun. Anyway, Azure Talon says, Dear Soda Jerks, why is it that 7-Up is the only clear lemon lime soda that doesn't suck these days? Signed, Azure Talon Cola. Now there's just layers of hubris built into this question. Like so many things. I mean, the obvious, just assuming we're all going to agree with him about the 7-Up thing, but also the layers of unearned jokes that just assumes we're gonna soda jerks, Azure Talon, Cola, like that. Like, I hate this, but this is the kind of shit you need to have a podcast. So I mean, this is the Joe Rogan variable, shall we say. So yeah, so it makes me curious if this comes through in his masturbation podcast. Probably not enough that I'm gonna listen, but maybe other people should and tell me on the blog, themagicaltalkinghat.com. What do you think of Azure Talon's podcast? Anyway, so I mean, line has been drawn here. What's your feelings on lemon lime soda in general? 7-Up in particular.
When I was growing up, we rarely had caffeinated sodas, so we had a lot of 7-Up and A&W root beer and things like that. And I thought 7-Up was better than Sprite, was better than, I think there was some other lemon lime soda. Although we had other things that weren't lemon lime, we had Fresca, which I think is supposed to be grapefruit or something. Is that supposed to be
grapefruit?
But a lot of times, like Fresca and I think there was another one, all sort of, even though we knew sort of grouped together, but 7-Up, they had that commercial, crisp and clean and no caffeine or whatever, and that was a pretty good, to me, a pretty good slogan, because it didn't taste syrupy.
I got to applaud you. I mean, as a person
like a lemon.
As a person who fights to be anti-racist and knows you're not supposed to appropriate that, I am so impressed that you said that slogan and didn't do it in the accent, because I don't think I can. I mean, I was already ready with the never had it, never will. Oh my God. Those commercials were, but that was what was so hilarious, because they said never had it, never will. And then they came out with 7-Up Gold, which is a weird, vaguely cola flavored thing, which I had for a while. And it was caffeinated. And I seem to remember my sister being like, what the fuck were they talking about? Never had it, never will. It does now, punks.
But I haven't had 7-Up for a while, so I don't know if it's still as good as it was. In my opinion, it was the better of those types of things. Like, another thing that got grouped in with those types of drinks was ginger ale usually. And I thought of all that stuff, 7-Up was the best. And I don't know if today I'd still think that, because corn syrup has really sort of taken over as a sweetener for a lot of sodas, and it changes the texture of it and the taste. And I mean, easily 7-Up could taste just like Sprite to me now, and that wouldn't be good, because I always thought that they're very distinct flavors, and I like 7-Up better, but I don't know.
I think, I mean, the problem is I haven't had a lot of lemon lime soda in recent years. for two primary reasons. One, I usually want caffeine in my sodas. And two, I drink diet sodas. And most of the diet lemon lime sodas taste like Bud Light organic hard seltzer, I assume. Like they're just crap. It's just fizzy water that smells vaguely lemony. And Diet Sprite, Diet 7-Up, they really are not that impressive to me. I too, I believe I was raised on 7-Up. My hunch is that that was cheaper. When Pepsi was like, fuck this, we're making our own, and they came up with Slice.
Oh, Slice, yeah.
My family did get into Slice, and Slice ended up having a variety of flavor spin-offs and things, and I did sort of join that bandwagon for a while. And Sierra Mist is known to do that too. 7-Up has had a couple, but 7-Up does not do that as much. 7-Up is very focused. I think because 7-Up in general, their attempts to have 7-Up variants have not been as successful as, say, the Sprites or the Sierra Mist has had some great ones. But yeah, in general, here is the thing I don't get. My wife and Azure Talon, I used to think had nothing in common other than a general low-level hatred for me. I now realize they have one other thing in common. They have strong differentiating feelings about lemon lime sodas. I'm not saying they taste the same. If you put Sprite, 7-Up, Sierra Mist, and like a really old can of Slice, I guess, because they don't make it anymore, and blindfolded me and had me taste them, I definitely would know they were all different. But if you asked me to identify which was which, I absolutely couldn't. And if you asked me to identify which I liked best, it would be a real narrow field. I don't feel like they're that different. If you want different from me, you have to do Fresca. You have to do Diet Squirt. Squirt was amazing. And the day they came up with Diet Squirt was one of the best days in the history of anything. Love that stuff. Mountain Dew trudges into that territory a little bit. Some of the variants, as we all know, I'm absolutely in love with Mellow Yellow Zero limeade flavor, which is a thing you can only get in those weird Coca-Cola freestyle machines. And I love that because it's a citrusy lime flavored thing, also fucking packed with flavor despite having no sugar and packed with caffeine. So I'm very happy about it. So it doesn't do it for me in general. I will say, speaking on behalf of society, as I am wont to do, I believe Azure Talon is a dinosaur. I believe Azure Talon is in the minority. I believe 7-Up is probably the least successful market share wise of the lemon lime sodas of today. At least I hear about it less. I see it offered fewer places, and it may just be that it's not one of the juggernauts. Sprite is Coke, and Sierra Mist is Pepsi, and 7-Up is RC, maybe.
Well, right now, are those sodas 7-Up? Let's see, A&W Root Beer, I think, is in this category as well. And I think RC Cola also. I think they're all owned by whoever owns Dr. Pepper, I think.
Okay.
But whoever that is, they own a lot of other things too. So I think all those brands kind of get lost in the shuffle.
And RC's never been good. And RC's diet brand, Diet Right, is a criminal act to serve that to people. Especially because I don't think it has any goddamn caffeine. What are you doing with a diet caffeine-free soda that's not a shoot off of your diet caffeinated soda? Like if you want to have a caffeine-free, but I'm pretty sure Diet Right is just straight up caffeine-free at the beginning. And I'm like, that's not why God invented colas, so that we could milk them and put them in our fizzy water. What are you doing? So yeah, diarrhea is gross, and RC is not very good. And that's the thing. You've gone off the map when you go to a restaurant and they're serving RC colas. Like that's how you know, like, shit, I have reached a town that the internet hasn't made it to yet. Like this is you can order RC cola, Diet Right, or you can have a cotton gin brought to your table. Like this is some old school stuff here. The machine in the back that dispenses the pop is still hand cranked. Like that's how you know. And it happens, but not very often. So yeah, I mean, maybe this is more interesting than billionaires. People go to the blog and talk to us about your lemon lime thing, because here's the thing. I clearly don't give a shit myself. And William seems to only have used to give a shit. But I give a shit that other people give a shit. And I really want to drill down into that. I want to know what your favorite lemon lime soda is, why that is, what it tastes like compared to others. Can you tell the difference if somebody just gave you one somewhere, like unmarked at a restaurant or whatever? Is it tied into what you grew up with? Or are you rebelling against what your parents made you drink? Like, where does Slice fit into your worldview? I'm still kind of surprised Slice went away. Slice seemed big to me. Slice had a lot going on. I don't know why that died.
We had Slice in our house after it was introduced because it was pretty good.
Yeah, and they made diet versions of every flavor. They had an orange. They had occasionally they'd have a weird like apple one and stuff. Like they did all sorts of weird ones. But I mean, just the straight up regular one, and I mean, it's not like Pepsi went under. They did Sierra Mist. I remember being like, "What is?" I think Sierra Mist was out for a couple years before I realized it had taken Slice's place. Like Slice disappeared, and I didn't know about it for a while. And then I was like, and for a while I was like bitter about that with Sierra Mist. But so yeah, I want to know about this, and I don't know about this because I don't care. But I care that you care. So go to the blog, themagicaltalkinghat.com, and tell me your lemon lime soda, lemon lime pop, lemon lime tonic, lemon lime Coke, I guess. That sounds weird. Stories. And we're gonna put them together, and it's gonna become like a Ken Burns documentary. 6 hours. It's just gonna be called Lemon Lime. A lot of it is just gonna be still images in montage while people write letters to each other about 7-Up and things like that. Full disclosure, I've never seen a Ken Burns documentary in my life, but I'm told this is how they go. Now I want to see a Kevin Burns documentary, which to my mind is Ken Burns and Kevin Smith. Like, I want to see that. So basically, Ken Burns does Clerks, like that. I want to see. But anyway, yeah, go there and talk to us about this because I want to know your feelings. As I've said, I don't care, but I care that you care, and so you should care because I care, even though I don't care. Have I mentioned I didn't get a lot of sleep?
You did mention that.
Yes. All right. So, weirdly, now that I think our internet has stabilized and we don't seem to have a lag anymore, we're done. It's over.
Yep, we're done.
Yeah, see, look, the lag's totally gone. What the crap? To be fair, my internet has been fucked up lately in general, and I thought it was me. I thought there was an issue, maybe the router was bad or whatever. And then I recently found out other friends that I think Mediacom around here is sucking a little bit right now. So I don't know. Somebody recently was like, why would you do it at this time of day? Because this is when all the businesses are online, which is true. But after business hours is when every household everywhere is watching Netflix and crap like that, which I think is way worse on the bandwidth. If some of you like actually know shit about that, tell us, because maybe we'll change. We don't know. We both have no job, so we'll just do whatever. But we will keep bringing this quality of content to you. I don't say quality content, I say this quality of content. So think about your life and what you did to deserve this.